Blessings, 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 everyone. We back again. Another playoff update. A lot to talk about. Some of the series started their games too. Some only played games one, but I think we can unpack some stuff from the series, kind of see how these teams are trying to figure each other out, what can be done differently. The matchups look pretty good. Just injuries, man. Injuries, and it still just sucks, but I think even with the injuries, we still got some good games out of it. And I think moving forward, man, I think the playoffs they're getting better and better so far. So some people might be surprised by how some of the games is going. I think a lot of it is going as how I predicted it. But first and foremost, before we get into all of the series, I want to congratulate Joel Embiid winning MVP, his first one. I think it's well deserved. I think last year he really could have won it, but I think as the year was ending last year, you saw Joel kind of have smaller performances and Jokic had bigger ones. And I think this year you saw the opposite. When they had the matchup when Philly played Denver and then Joel didn't play, I kind of thought that might hurt him. But I think it was true how they were saying that they didn't want Jokic to win it 3 times because once he would have won it 3 times back to back, it would have put him in a conversation that people really don't think he deserves to be in at this point. So whether they help Joel in the voting or not, I don't know if any voter would actually say that, but I'm glad Joel got him one finally. He hasn't really been campaigning for it as much, but you know that he wanted to win it. So you saw even when they showed the video that he won, his team was hyping him up. They started yelling MVP, and he got emotional. He started crying. They made fun of him, but it's all fun with being teammates. But I congratulate him, man. I think it's well deserved. And we'll see how far his team can continue to go, riding that momentum of him winning the MVP. And are they gonna win a championship with that now? Because I think that would make him cry even more. We're gonna get into this first matchup. Heat and the Knicks. We talked about game 1 last time. The Heat won game 1, behind Jimmy, and the team played well as well. But we saw in game 2, Jimmy didn't play. We talked about the sprained ankle. Was it going to keep him out? Was it going to hinder him? It's always different timetables for different people on injuries, especially something like a sprained ankle or a groin injury, stuff like that. But Jimmy having a sprained ankle, Jimmy can play next game. Let's just be honest. Jimmy is a soldier. You don't really see Jimmy miss games like this. So I would not be surprised if Jimmy is playing next game. The Knicks was able to even it up. They lost the first game at home, so they lost home court advantage, but they was able to win game 2. So now the series shifts back to Miami, where Julius Randle didn't play in game 1. So it seemed like the Knicks kind of figured something out. You saw Vincent going off. You saw Martin hitting late threes. You saw the Heat guys really playing well despite Jimmy not being there because they are so well coached. So when you're a well-coached team like that, you can overcome that sometimes because of your heightened level of execution when you're missing your star player. So I think we saw the Knicks, even though the Heat had leads late in that game, you saw the Knicks end on a run to go ahead and secure that victory for them so that when they shifted to Miami, they could try to get at least one there to try to get the momentum back on their side, get home court advantage back so that they could try to win this series. I had Heat in 7. I still think the Heat is going to win this game, this series in 7 because I think they are so evenly matched. You saw even with Julius Randle coming back, Julius Randle was kind of bullying his way into the paint. And, he liked to shoot jump shots too, but it seemed like he was just so much forceful when he was driving into the paint. I think that's something that they will watch on tape, and Miami will try to adjust to it, but it just seems like with his play style, there's going to be something they can get to all series. So we'll see if Tibbs tries to highlight that more in their offense. Brunson started off slow, but he heated up late, and you need Brunson to play like your best player, and you need Julius Randle to be your second best player. Or really, they just need to be 1A and 1B some kind of way for you to really have a good chance of winning this series, because Miami is well coached. They discipline, they share the ball, and then they have their superstar in Jimmy. So we'll see how this series continues to play out. I could see them splitting in Miami. The Knicks seem like they kind of found a formula later on in their game to where now they kind of see some softness in the Miami Heat defense. Not softness as in like the disposition, but they see where they can attack their defense at. And I think moving forward, this series is going to be more intriguing. You see, the scores really ain't going up that much. Like I said, 111. I predicted 110 to be like the high score of the series, but 111. You know, I'm off by 1 point. But these teams are not offensively oriented. They're both very heavy defensive teams, and they get opportunistic buckets, and they have true bucket getters. So that's what helps them when the offense seems to be stagnant, when it doesn't seem like there's a lot of movement. They have true people who would just go get them a bucket. So I like how this series is playing out. Like I said, I knew that I was going to like this series because the games was going to be close. Even if it wasn't going to be high scoring, it wasn't going to be electric performances, it was going to be close games because of how defensive-minded the teams is, and that's what we're seeing now. We're seeing two defensive-minded teams really go at it, timely buckets, big performances by the guys that's supposed to have those performances. And right now they tied at 1-1, headed back to Miami. Nuggets in 7 is looking like might be Nuggets in 5, man. Game 2, the Suns was in control for a large portion. For a large portion of this game, the Suns was in control. But the Nuggets ended up pulling away at the end. The Nuggets just have too much depth for this team. Like I said from the beginning, the Suns is very top-heavy, and then now you factor in that Chris Paul is hurt. Chris Paul is going to miss, I think they said at least game 3 through 5. So with them waiting to see what's going to happen with Chris Paul, the series might be over with by then, because the Suns just don't have the depth to try to hang with this team over the course of 4 quarters. See, you saw in the game, it seemed like the Suns was good. They was in position to win. It felt like, you know, they had a good grasp on the game. But then you saw it late in that game, the others started to step up, and then they ended up winning the game. Jokic is obviously, you know, the best player on the team, but with so many other pieces, even when you get all the way down to like Bruce Brown and all those guys, the Suns cannot match up with it and sustain it for a long period of time. Now, they will shift to Suns being at home, so, you know, usually when you're at home, your role players play better, so maybe the 1 or 2 role players that they got can play better, but I think it's just really a bad matchup for them. I think next year the Suns will be better. They'll be able to build around their core better. It won't be, you know, they traded everybody to get KD next year, so maybe next year they'll have a better outlook, a better chance to win. But right now, man, it's looking like a short series. It's looking like the Nuggets is going to advance really fast, faster than everybody expect. And then, you know, the talk would start to shift to what are they going to do with Chris Paul and all that. But, you know, it's still only 2 games. It's the first of 4. It's not the first of 2. But the way that the Nuggets have won is not encouraging if I'm a Suns fan, because they won in a high-scoring fashion where they put up all the points in game 1, and then even in game 2, when it seemed like nobody really had anything going on offensively, they still was able to put it together at the end to rally and beat them. Now, you can factor in that they was at home and all that is valid. I give it to you. But at the end of the day, the construction of these teams is more lopsided for the Nuggets. So although, you know, I in my prediction, I gave Nuggets in 7 because I give respect to Kevin Durant, because he is Kevin Durant. He is a spectacular player, but in a series like this, is it going to be enough for KD to just be KD and then Devin Booker to be the number 2? Because Devin Booker he's going to have to take on even more of the playmaking responsibilities to be less of the scorer that he is, which he truly needs to be in this series and in this offense period. He needs to be able to be more of a scorer than a playmaker. But with Chris Paul going down, Cam Payne can only do so much. So we'll see how the series goes. But right now, it's looking like the series is going to be shorter than even I predicted from the beginning, because the Nuggets are just too deep for this team. Even with spectacular performance from Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, it just seems like it's going to be too much for them to overcome this time. But, we've seen Kevin Durant have monster performances before, so we'll see. He's going to be on his home court. We'll see how does he adjust? How does Phoenix adjust? What does Monty have in play? And try to switch things up to try to make it easier on his stars to get going. So try to help them to try to even up this series at home. But right now the options is looking dire. It's looking like this is what we're gonna see. We're gonna see Nuggets win. They might not always be pretty, but it's gonna be a shorter series than we really predicted. Because the reason why I'm saying that too, I want to preface it because I want to say, when you look at last round, when you saw the Warriors go down 0-2, the way that they lost, you can see how they can just go home and win. The way that the Suns was losing, it doesn't look like that's what's going to be the difference. But we'll see as the series go on. But it wasn't really just more like an execution thing or nothing like that, or they cut down on the turnovers, get some more boards. It just looks like the personnel matches. It's too many questions that the Nuggets have that the Suns don't have answers for. Even if it's a small question, if it's just a role player, just that role player not having a counterpoint on the Suns because of their lack of depth. It does make a difference. So we'll see, man. Philly and Boston. Philly wins game 1 to everybody's surprise because Joel was out. The report is he's going to play now. Of course, he's coming off winning the MVP. He's probably going to have a big game tonight, or at least he's going to want to. So if he don't have it going early, you might see him pressing a little bit to try to get himself going. He missed the last 2 games that they played, the last game against the Nets, then the first game in this series. So he's going to be anxious to get out there. He's going to be anxious to play. So we'll see, man. You saw Harden turn back the clock. Harden dropped 45. I saw when Harden said, it's difficult for him now because people say when he scored 20 points, then, he's washed up. He's not the old Harden. But then he was saying, when he was scoring all them points, people were saying you can't win like this. So he's trying to adjust his game. You can see he's aware of himself in a way that he is trying to adjust his game to try to win a championship. But when the team needed him to step up and become that high scoring Harden, he did it. And they was able to shock Boston, get a win on the road without their best player. And it put them in a great position because now they still home court advantage. We know Boston can bounce back. We don't overreact over game 1s, right? But it's a huge confidence boost to this team that they won that game without Joel against arguably the best team left in the playoffs. If based on consensus, the Boston is probably the best team that everybody think is left in the playoffs, and they was able to win that game on the road. Game 1, vintage Harden performance. And this team is really looking nice, man. When you factor in Tyrese Maxey, who was effective in this game, he wasn't efficient, but he was effective. Who was effective in this game? You still got guys like Tobias Harris that can be a third or fourth punch. This team really it looks good to make a deeper run. Now, I picked Boston in 7. Because I believe Boston is the better team. I believe they're a better coach with I guess all due respect to Doc Rivers, whatever that's supposed to be. But I believe Boston will win this series in 7. And with them losing game 1, it only reinforces my prediction even more because they would have to win a road game which Philly is a good home team. I think I think the series is gonna shape up real nice. We get Joel back tonight. We see how that go. How does Boston adjust to Joel being back? Does that hurt the chemistry that they kind of built over the 2 games that he didn't play? Even though it's a small sample size, you do have to readjust. How do you play when Joel come back? Touches is gonna be less. Usage is gonna be less. Somebody's gonna get less minutes than they was getting. So we'll see, man. He's an upgrade, obviously. So we're not gonna make it seem like he's gonna hurt them coming back, but it is an adjustment period that making those adjustments can end up costing you a game. But like I said, they did what every road team wants to accomplish. They came in, got one, so now they have home court advantage. So now they feel like all we have to do really is win our home games the rest of the way, and then we win this series, which is the advantage to having home court. So we'll see how this game 2 goes. I love the way that Harden is playing. I love that he still is able to go into that bag and be that top scorer. So it bodes well for Philly as they go, because now that Harden has showed that capability, it increases the confidence of the whole team, because you have 2 real guys that can go out there and be game changers for you, right? Shout out Monty God, game changers. They can be game changers for you because of how dominant they can be and how they can turn a series or a game on its head just by imposing their will in a stronger way. So we'll see. Not much really to say about Boston. I think they probably was surprised that Harden really could do this. So we'll see how do they respond. We know they're a good team. They got the pieces to compete with anybody. I don't think they hanging their heads over the loss. I think, Harden had an all world performance, and I think that's how they're going to keep it in perspective. Harden played really well. They didn't play particularly well, but they didn't play bad. But I think they're going to look at the film, see some stuff they could have done different, make adjustments, and then they're going to hope that they can get a win in game 2. So we'll see how does this game go, how competitive it is. Does Philly continue to keep they foot on the pedal now that they have home court advantage? Try to get 2 wins, because that would be even better, right? So sticking with Celtics in 7, we'll see how that series progress. Lakers and the Warriors. This series was advertised as Curry versus LeBron, but it's really Curry versus AD, because AD is their best player. You saw AD go off last night, 30 and 23. First big man to do it for the Lakers since Shaq. LeBron is still effective. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to disrespect LeBron. LeBron is still effective, but I might have to change my graphic to Curry and AD, man, because AD is really that guy. I think from the Warriors' perspective, you did see some of the effects of playing such a long series. The Lakers looked more rested, especially from the jump. You saw the Lakers more active defensively. They was flying all across the court. They did play good defense. Now, what I will say is, because it's no way that I can talk about this game and don't talk about the fouls, right? People say, well, the Warriors are shooting more jumpers and the Lakers is getting inside. That's all good and fine to say, but it's not like shooting fouls are the only fouls that exist. So to say that they only did 12 fouls in the whole game, they averaged 3 fouls per quarter for the whole game, to me is just silly. But it is what it is. The Warriors, I think they was down 12 at one point, 12 or 14. They were down 14 at one point in the 4th quarter. They came back. They had a shot to tie the game at the end. People making a big deal out of Jordan Poole taking that shot. The Warriors said it, and I will agree, that is a good shot. That's a shot within the floor of their offense, and it's a shot that he can make. Now, he didn't make it this time. He probably could have ate up the space a little bit, but if he would have tried to dribble to get closer, then that would have just attracted more defense, and it would have made it be a more contested shot than it was. Now, Kerr could have called a timeout, but then at that point, you give them a chance to set that defense up and then say, well, we're just going to foul. We'll play the foul game with them, foul them on the catch, make them shoot 2, then we'll go to the foul line, and then you have to play their game. But in the moment, it's a good shot for their offense, and he just didn't make the shot. But it's encouraging for the Warriors because you saw him have a good game. You saw Clay have an okay game. He made 6 threes, but he still was like 9 for 25. He really didn't shoot good for Clay standards yet. He hasn't really just had a really good Clay game. But I think that was a good Jordan Poole game. You know, Draymond was in foul trouble most of the time. Wiggins is still trying to find his legs. You can still see, you know, this only his 8th game back since he was on that long layoff. So I think you'll see him start to find his rhythm more and more. But with the free throw disparity being how much it was, it's almost impossible to win when you're fouling that much. Now, the Warriors had the 3-point disparity. The Warriors hit way more threes than they did, which the Warriors hit 21 threes and they hit 6. Most of the time, that's enough for you to win. That's enough for you to win the game. And you saw at the end they had a chance to win the game. But we know game ones are usually feel like games. See how they're gonna guard you. See what kind of defense they throwing out there. I think you'll see the adjustments. I believe Curry is a better coach than Darvin Ham, so we'll see what kind of adjustments do they make. You saw late in that game, Curry had the ball in his hands way more, and it kind of opened up a lot more for their offense. But I know Steve is not trying to rely on Curry having to drop 50 every game for them to win. Other guys have to step up. Other guys have to contribute either in a way of playing better defense without fouling or scoring more points. So Looney had 23 boards. Looney played good. He wasn't on the floor at the end of that game because they was trying to space it out with more shooting. But I think this is going to be a really great series. I picked Warriors in 6. I'm sticking with Warriors in 6. I think, you know, the Lakers came and did what they wanted to do. They got home court advantage, but we know this Warriors team is capable of winning the game on the road too and getting that home court advantage right back. So we'll see how does this series go. How do they adjust? Because it's kind of hard to see the Warriors fouling this much every game, because that's really what kept the Lakers in the game. The fouls, them having that big disparity of the fouls, that's what kept them in the game. Whether they was fouls or not, whether the Warriors should have got more calls, you know, you don't leave the game to be decided by the refs. Last video I kept calling the Chase Center. I mean, I kept calling the Oracle, but in Chase Center, they got the crowd to kind of respond, but the crowd is only going to respond to good play. It's not like Sacramento where they just going to be screaming, and LA where they just going to be screaming. I think the Warriors are going to try to get their crowd into it early, try to play more disciplined defense, because apparently the Lakers played the most disciplined defense ever, because they went almost a whole half without giving up a free throw. So what is the Warriors' adjustment? Do they attack AD more? Because you saw at the beginning of the game, you can see it was a concerted effort that they was not going in there to see AD. They would stop in the mid-range pull-up. Wiggins hit a couple middies. Clay did. Curry did. So you saw that they really was trying to not go in there and challenge AD, which is understandable. And they hit 21 threes, so they will have to continue to shoot the ball as good as they did. They will have to try to attack them in some kind of way. You saw little pet plays that they ran to where they would get AD to bring help, and there was no backside help for AD. Nobody was helping the helper. So you saw that they was able to squeeze in certain layups and get dunks because of that. So defense was great from the Lakers' point. You know, Vanderbilt, he really stepped up to the challenge. You know, Curry still dropped 27, but you knew he had to work for it a lot more. And I think between the second and the third quarter, he only had maybe 3 shots, something like that. He really got it going more later in the fourth quarter. So that's going to be something that Curry's going to have to look into. I know he really wasn't trying to shake it up too much, because after that Game 7 performance, Curry took 38 shots. I know he was trying to get Curry into the flow of the game, but still really get the other guys going, because you don't want to try to run Curry into the ground, especially in Game 1, because that's not a sustainable model for them to win this series if Curry is tired, because he's taking 38 shots every game. So we'll see guys like Dante DiVincenzo and Gary Payton. We'll see, can they give you more minutes, give you more points, because it was like 2 points from the rest of the bench besides Jordan Poole. Or maybe JaMychal Green hit 2 threes. So it was 8 points really from the rest of the bench besides Jordan Poole. But the Lakers bench stepped up. The Lakers team played well. They played like a team that really wanted to get this win. They was coming out 4 days rest. This to me, this was a game that I'm not surprised the Lakers won. The Warriors coming off Game 7, the Lakers being more rested, but they look tired down the stretch. So we'll see. The one game in between affects both teams. Both teams have older stars, so we'll see how did the series go. Like I said, I'm not surprised. You know, we don't overreact off of game ones to begin with, but I'm not really surprised that they won this game, man. AD is one of the best players in the league. LeBron continues to be one of the best players in the league. So their team is going to rally behind them. They're going to play with confidence. I think the Warriors did a good job of not letting guys like Austin Reeves and Rui really get going. You know, Austin Reeves hit 2 big threes at one point in that game, which was huge at that moment of the game, and it helped them keep a larger lead that in the end made the Warriors have to work harder to chew into, right? So we'll see how this series go. I like my pick. I like Warriors in 6. I think this is going to be the best series of the second round. I'm excited to see how do the Warriors respond on Thursday. What's the adjustments that Kerr make to try to even this series up, going back to LA, where their crowd is going to be going crazy. Their crowd is going to be ready to stand up and cheer on their team. So we'll see, man. What does Steph Curry have in store? Because we know Steph Curry and this team in general responds to adversity. They always respond. I don't expect them to come out and lay an egg. I think they're going to understand the magnitude of not going down 0-2 to this team, going on the road. Because it was different when you was down to the Kings 0-2 and then you get to go play 2 home games. But you don't want to lose your 2 home games when you have home court advantage. Well, now you don't anymore because you lost game 1. But you don't want to lose both of your home games and then have to go try to win 2 on the road to not be down 3 games or not to get swept if you go down 0-2. So we'll see how this series go, man. The matchup is a weird matchup because you see the Warriors are the team that foul the most. The Lakers are the team that foul the least. The Lakers draw a lot of fouls and the Warriors don't draw a lot of fouls. So it's easy to try to just say, oh, the fouls. Although I do believe it played a part in it. That's not the only reason why they lost. Now, it was a big reason why the Lakers was able to stay into the game with the 3-point shooting disparity being so much, but the Warriors just really have to clean that up because although you can say the Warriors might have should have got more calls, the Lakers pretty much, outside of a couple flops, which is indicative of the game today. That's just how the game goes. The Lakers, they did what they usually do. They draw fouls. So how do the Warriors scheme against it? How do the Warriors respond? What do they do to try to swing the momentum back in their favor, man? We'll see as this series continues to go on. But I'm out, man. Priest King Tony. Shalom.